Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Summer PopUps. I'm Sherry Lewin, and I'm the founder and president of Thrive Claremont, and we're happy to have you with us here today. Thrive Claremont is a 501c3 charitable nonprofit. Our mission is empowering teens to succeed, and we do that by providing opportunities for skill building, socialization, and leadership training. One of the opportunities is our Summer PopUps Series. This is our fourth year holding the series and our first year doing so virtually. So we hope you have a great time and we're glad you're with us.
Okay, thanks for that great introduction, Mary. That was precious. I love that. And always, as a speaker, I like to know what my audience is here to learn. So my first question to everybody is going to be, what would you like to learn about public speaking or public speaking on Zoom so that I can make sure and cover those things tonight? So go ahead and either put it in the chat box or go ahead and just let me know. I'll write those things down so that I can make sure and cover those items this evening.
Well, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is probably thinking of the right words, because I'm fine. I'm fine with talking. I like talking, but sometimes I have trouble finding the right words, which you guys probably seen on the podcast. But yeah.
Okay, that's very normal. You're not the only one, so no problem there. That just really takes practice, for sure. Anybody else? Any ideas of other things or curiosities of what you'd like to learn tonight?
I put it in the chat, but I said how to make Zoom calls more like interactive friendly, considering you don't get to see your audience face to face all the time. It's kind of difficult sometimes to have interaction with the speaker and the viewers.
Okay, yes, very good one. I will cover that on one of the slides, so that was great. We will cover that. All right, anything else?
Basically, I wanted to learn like how, like kind of how Logan said, like how to talk more fluent, like sound better what you're saying when you're talking to other people, really.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that was one of my main things for joining Toastmasters now 7 years ago. I personally don't have a problem talking in front of people, but the reason that I joined Toastmasters was because I felt like my ideas and my words in my head and my mind were all over the place. So I wanted to learn, okay, how do I sound intelligent and get the point across without having all these what we call filler words, right? So that is exactly why I joined Toastmasters. And just to let you know, you can actually join Toastmasters when you turn 18 years of age. And in the future, if Seth and Logan, you want some more training, we have the opportunity to do a youth leadership training, which you would basically learn how a Toastmaster meeting is run and the components involved in the meeting to become a better, more fluent speaker. So that is a great opportunity for us in the future to work together. All right, and let's keep going on. So basic things to keep in mind while speaking. Practice, practice, practice. So this is probably the number one thing for Seth and Logan as far as answering your question goes, is once you have the material together, you really, really want to practice it. You can practice it in front of the mirror. You can practice it having each other or your mom videotape you so you can actually see yourself in the video. And then you can watch for facial expressions. You can watch for hand gestures. You can listen for vocal variety, all these fun things. And one thing that I've been learning with these Zoom calls is that it's really important to be able to position yourself in the camera, in the photo box, so that you can actually see your face and maybe your hand gestures and that sort of thing. And if you really want to make a point, maybe you come in a little bit closer and maybe you come back a little bit further. So playing with all those different things as far as the camera goes is really important to do that ahead of time when speaking on Zoom or some other platform. Okay, so I mentioned vocal variety, hand gestures, and facial expressions are not only, of course, important in person, but especially on Zoom, because to answer Jordan's question, these are the things that are going to help your listener really kind of feel the energy through the camera. That's why it's so important to really get the energy going, to make sure that you're standing up, because the energy when you're standing up, which I am, is way different when you're sitting down. So if you really want to bring the energy, you stand up and you make sure that your camera's at a level that it's getting your face and everything is looking really good in the camera. So that's very important, in my opinion. And that's a big, big piece of feedback that we continue to explore and share with each other through Toastmasters on our Zoom calls, which I'm on 2 Zoom meetings a week since the quarantine started. So that's pretty much one of the big ones for us too. It takes a lot of practice. It really does. So don't beat yourself up over it if you feel like, you know, this is kind of a hard thing to do. It's hard for everybody. So the sandwich approach. So to Logan and Seth's point, as far as constructing a really nice speech, you want to do a sandwich approach. The technique is called a sandwich approach. And that basically means you have an introduction. And in an introduction, a great introduction is going to be either asking the audience a question or telling a story. Those 2 things I have found really, really grab the audience's attention. And so they kind of like lean in like, ooh, what's going to happen next? And they just sit there. And you can even pause like I did, because it's a little bit of a suspense that brings the listener in like, ooh, what are they going to say next? Right? That curiosity piece. Then after the introduction, you're going to go into the body of the speech. In Toastmasters, we teach everyone to have 3 bullet points. Share 3 points within the body of the speech. And within each point, if you can, tell a story around that point, because that is going to give the listener the opportunity to really remember the point through a story, because people remember stories more than anything, believe it or not. And the conclusion, to come back to the sandwich, you're going to use some piece of the introduction and put it in the conclusion. Okay, so that's what's called the sandwich approach. Very easy to do, and it makes the speech very easy for the listener to follow. So the simpler, the better. Okay, any questions about that?
I don't believe so.
All right. Okay, some tips for speaking on Zoom. I was mentioning this a little bit earlier. The camera is something that everyone just needs to practice with. So right now I'm looking at the eye of the camera. So hopefully, because I can't see you guys, but it feels like I'm looking in your eyeballs. Can you see that? Right? So a lot of times what I found is right now I have you on the right side of the screen. So if I look off to the right, I'm looking at your photos because I have the PowerPoint in the middle of my screen. So if you're looking off to the right, I'm seeing you, but at the same time, it's a different energy if I'm looking to the right versus looking straight into the camera. So practicing looking straight into the camera is really going to bring that connection with your audience because you're not there in person.
Could you also move just like the pictures to like the top center? Would that work? Because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm not looking at the camera. Does that work?
Yeah, that helps you get a better view of, like you make the
I'm
bar
not
go
sure
across
how to
the
move
top.
I'm not sure how to move the pictures to the top, but that would be perfect. Yeah. I don't know if somebody can do that.
Yeah, because it kind of cuts off a lot of the screen, but it's yeah.
You slide
it's
the bar.
possible.
Yeah.
Like if you can figure out a way, I really don't know how to efficiently, but I guess it's some practice, I guess.
Let's see.
Yeah.
What you can do, there's like 4 little tabs on the top of the video thingy that you can see. You can press the middle one, it'll show the person who's talking. You can put them at the top center of your screen. Then it'll look like you're looking at the little camera thingy instead of looking at the person, but you're actually looking at the person.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. I just don't know how to do it when I share the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. But I do know what you're talking about, and you're absolutely right. Because when you're speaking, you can set it on the speaker view, and then everybody else is kind of on the top. Now, sometimes I will tell you, especially like in our Toastmaster meetings, we'll have 20 people on there. And if you're looking at just the presenter in the middle of the screen, you're not going to be able to see everybody, but you'll be able to see some people on top. So facial expressions, that is going to help you connect with the audience as well. And don't be afraid to use the pause. The pause is a very, very powerful tool in public speaking. And it allows you to then smile so that the audience is feeling the warmth of your character, seeing that smile and your teeth coming through the screen. So that's always a really good thing to do, is to pause, especially if you're telling a joke. You want to pause to give the audience time to react, especially in a normal classroom type setting. Allowing the listener to laugh out loud is a really good thing, and it's such a great feeling when you're the person giving the joke and people are laughing. It's like the best feeling in the world. I just love it. I talked about coming closer and then moving further away from the camera. That when you practice a speech, you get really good at where you want to bring emphasis to the points in the speech. And that might be where you come a little bit closer in. And maybe when you're just talking in general through the point, you come a little bit further back. So you just kind of play with those, coming in and out of the video, vocal variety, getting louder, and then bringing the voice down, especially if you're telling a story. I had to do a folklore and read it. No, I had to do a folklore. I had to memorize the folklore story and use the vocal variety. So something like that is a really good practice, since you guys are homeschooled too, where you could go ahead and read a folklore and then practice videoing yourself and seeing how it comes across. Because you might find in the beginning it sounds a little dull or a little monotone, but once you kind of, look at it, you're like, okay, I really need to bring more energy. And always, always, always with public speaking, even when you think you're bringing the most energy and the most enthusiasm, you can always bring more. Always bring more. Because to the audience, like, we feel like it's a lot, but to the audience, it's, here, but it still can go up to here. Hopefully that makes sense. And just have fun. Try to be as relaxed as possible. If you really think about it, public speaking is like the top 3 things that people hate to do in this world. If you can master public speaking and get really comfortable in front of an audience, trust me, you will be hired way faster than anybody else that's applying for a job out there. Communication, public speaking, fluidness, all of these things really play a part in you setting yourself apart from the pack when you're going and interviewing for a position in the real world, for sure. Okay, Raquel, I'm going to admit Raquel to the, hi Raquel. She might be on mute.
Okay.
Hi Raquel, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Great, 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 great. All right, we've come to table topics. Table topics means that we're speaking off the cuff, or what we call impromptu speaking. So we actually have this at every single meeting, and there's a question given to one of our members, and you speak between 1 to 2 minutes. So would you guys like to try? I think we have enough people on here that I can probably give a question to every person. And from my phone, I'll go ahead and time everybody. Well, don't worry about the time, because I can put up green, yellow, and red behind me, but it's a lot of switching around when I'm trying to share the screen. So just do your best, 1 to 2 minutes, think in your head that we'll speak for, and just speak off the cuff, do as best you can, work with the vocal variety, work with the camera, work with the facial expressions. Okay? Logan, I will start with you. What has been your favorite thing about quarantine these last couple of months?
I'm going to be honest, that's kind of a hard one.
And if you don't like the question, you can talk about anything you'd like.
No, it's just like there's so many things I can think of. Like, well, not really so many things, but like there's a few. I guess I'll go with archery. So a few months, like a month back, I was kind of going through like a little of my dad's stuff because he's like a survivalist basically. Like he has a lot of like survival stuff. We like going camping and stuff like that, but we haven't been in a while. So I was looking through it a little bit, and I found my dad's like fishing bow, which is like, it's a recurve bow, so basically it's compactable, so it's like more efficient than a compound when you're like carrying it wise, but it's compound, but it's not really. But it's fishing. He's a big fan of fishing, so I found it, and eventually I eventually asked him if we could try it out because I never shot a bow before. So we put it together and we went outside and we shot it a few times, and I've developed an interest in it, so I enjoy doing that now. So I love doing that. I love shooting a bow. So I'm happy I found that, and I'm happy I put it together, and we spent some time together, which was really nice. So.
Oh, fantastic. I love that. And you spoke for 1 minute and 34 seconds. Great job. Yeah, so thank you, Sherry. She's going to be holding up the cell phone. She's going to time everybody. And hopefully you can see on her screen how much time you have. So she'll put up the phone at 1 minute, 1 minute and 30, and then at 2 minutes. Okay? Great job. See, that wasn't so bad. You did a fantastic job, and you brought a lot of energy to answering
Thank you.
that question. Yeah, it's fantastic. Okay, Seth, what is your favorite class that you've studied either, I guess, online through your homeschooling? What has been your favorite subject that you've studied? The time starts when they start speaking.
Okay, so my favorite subject is probably biology. Is not because of the subject matter in it. It's more because of the teacher. Because our teacher was he was really like helpful, and he liked to help us a lot. Because as I said before, the virtual school is basically it's very confusing. So you sometimes need a really good teacher to help you through it. So in biology, I thought a lot of things in biology were really fascinating. But also, it was really big help that the teacher along the way helped us with all the material in it. So I was really appreciative of him. And also, he was really carefree. He always like joked around with us all the time, and he was always really nice to us. So he always like we have to have these passwords for these like basically the end of the tests or like the module tests or whatever, or the segment tests, like at the end of this certain like course or something. So we basically he would always make up this funny password or something that he would put in, and he's like, "Oh, he's even a better password now." And it was pretty sad when we had to finish out the class because I really like that teacher. He's like probably one of my favorite teachers on FOVS. So I would say biology was my best subject.
Excellent. You spoke for 1 minute, 28 seconds, and guess what? You used the sandwich approach because you said biology and you finished with biology. Excellent job. Excellent job. Raquel, I can't see you, but I think you're still there, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Raquel, your question is, what is your favorite movie? What is your favorite movie?
Okay, well, I just watched Aladdin featuring Will Smith, and I was obsessed with that movie. Well, at first I was obsessed with Moana, and then I watched Aladdin, and now I can't get over Aladdin. And I love that movie. And I never even really watched the cartoon version of it, but once I watched the the acting and how it was put together, and I don't know what to call it, but the newer version, I was like, wow, why didn't I ever watch Aladdin as a kid? It was such a good movie. I just loved everything about it. So that's been my favorite movie today.
Awesome. Okay, great job. You spoke for 44 seconds. Way to go. And I have not seen that movie with the Will Smith version, so I am definitely going to have to watch it. And I love Will Smith, so I'm sure it's fantastic, like you're saying. So thank you for participating. I will go to Jordan next. Jordan, who has been your most influential person in your life thus far?
My mother has definitely been the most influential person like my life thus far. She encourages me no matter what I choose and which path I've done. I've ranged from like taking ballet, gymnastics, etc. And she's just like, go for it. She supports me. Her one rule is you have to do it for a year. And if you don't like it after a year, that's okay. As long as we've learned something within that experience. And I think that is the beauty of trying new things in life, is that you do carry whatever you've taken with you, and it layers itself kind of like a cake throughout life. And she's definitely really motivated and taught me that you can be independent, but you need people in your life to keep you going. And I think that is something valuable, because I've struggled with just being too independent and not feeling like I need people. But the community of life is the best way to keep me motivated and going. So quarantine's been really nice. So I've been able to like spend more time with her, since the older you get, the less time you get to spend with the people you love the most. So I've definitely been enjoying that time with her and learning a lot more about her when she was in college because I'm kind of going through that phase of not knowing what I fully want to do with life. But I think everyone feels that way. It's just we're kind of too scared to admit it sometimes. But I would say my mother is definitely the most influential person in my life.
Oh my gosh, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. You spoke for a minute and 15 seconds. Very heartfelt, very genuine. You used your hands when you were speaking, which was awesome, and great content. And if I were your mom, I'd be crying right now because that was just beautiful. So great job. And thanks to Sherry for starting Thrive, because that is a community that you can be a part of so that you don't have to be so independent. You can be part of the Thrive community, which is great. And we definitely do need each other for sure. All right, Sherry, what has been your favorite thing about quarantine thus far?
Well, I really like to work in my garden. And if you've ever gotten out and gotten your hands in the dirt, and you know how great that can feel on a nice spring day. So for me, it allowed me a more leisurely morning to go out and water my plants. And I made some investments. I bought a rain barrel to go under my gutter to catch the rainwater, so then I could fill my watering can with rainwater if it had rained. And then I also bought a composter, so I'm really geeking out on gardening. So we've been putting the leaves from the oak trees and the garden scraps in it. You like crank it every day. So my favorite thing is that it's really taught me that I can actually do gardening in a kind of in an urban home. You don't have to have a lot of land to farm, and I'm experimenting with that. And since I previously lived on a big piece of land, it's been a nice way to challenge me to get outside, and quarantine's given me the time to do that. So that's my favorite thing. Thanks.
Excellent. You spoke for about a minute and 10 seconds. I started the timer a little bit late. So you spoke over a minute. So great job. Great hand gestures. And I will have to say you were inspirational to me for getting a tower garden, even though I'm not able to make a herb box or garden in my backyard. I was able to get a tower garden that I now have on my lanai, which I just set up on Saturday. So I'm so excited to grow my own herbs and everything. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Anybody else would like to participate? Anybody else out there?
I think we got everybody.
Everyone went? Okay, don't want to leave anyone out. Fantastic job, everyone. Thanks for participating. That was excellent. Any questions? Any other questions? Things that I've missed? Any more questions that came up through the class?
Do you feel that, like, I feel like the older I've gotten, the more self-conscious I've become of, like, me as a speaker. Do you feel like that's a common thing for people?
Yes, absolutely. So I just heard this on the radio, I think it was yesterday, that as children, we, especially learning to walk, we fall down a lot. We have to get back up. We have to continue to walk and practice and fall before we actually are able to walk. And as we get older, society almost tells us that because you're older and more mature, that you shouldn't be failing as much because you're older and you should know how to do this already. It's actually a book by Rachel Hollis. And that's not the case. The case is that every time we try something new, we're going to fail, because nobody in this lifetime knows how to do everything perfectly from the beginning. So whenever you're out there trying something new in the world, as we get older, we have a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves or society puts on ourselves. And so therefore, if we fall the first, second, or third time, we kind of feel bad. But in reality, it's what we had to do from the beginning in order to get good at speaking, at using silverware, at walking, at whatever we did since we were a young person. So I think the whole notion of being good at everything the first time out of the gate is not reality. So don't put too much pressure on yourself when you're out in the real world trying something new, because at Keller Williams, we call it failing forward. You're going to fail, but you're going to keep moving forward in order to make it right or exactly how you want it. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, 100%. I just realized, like, from like when I started high school, probably like around Seth and Logan's age, like when I did public speaking or debates, I was like, all over the place. I probably did not care. But then once I got like to taking public speaking classes and stuff in college, I became so like self-conscious about how I spoke. And I think I messed up more because of that.
Mm-hmm. And this is why it's so important that teens start from a very young age of being in front of a public audience. That's why singers and actors and musicians, when they start at a very young age, generally you'll find them feeling very comfortable in front of an audience because they've already been put in that position since since they were young, and just getting into the practice of being in front of an audience, every single time you do it, you get more and more comfortable. That's why Toastmasters is so great, because we do these table topics and we come to the front of the room. So we're actually standing in front of an audience. Every time we give a speech, we come to the front of the room and talk in front of the audience. And then the third component of a Toastmaster meeting is actually evaluating the speaker. So we're giving constructive feedback to the speaker. We're giving a little mini speech, and we have to come up with it really quickly. And that's for 2 to 3 minutes. And it also helps us become better listeners because we're listening for certain things. So it's just one of those things that I wish everyone had to continue with public speaking, whether they liked it or not, because I believe this world we would have such better communicators overall.
I want to add to that, Regina. I think that's awesome. Thank you for adding to that. But one of the things that helped me when I was very, very young, I did a lot of it through my church that I went to. We did these, they were called 3-minute topics, and you had to speak in Sunday school for 3 minutes. So you were always up in front talking about usually Bible stories, but still you were in front of an audience and that's just so invaluable every time you can get it. But one of the things that was recommended to me, because I went off to study broadcast journalism. So there was a whole different level of presenting yourself on camera, learning inflections. I get away from it now because I'm not concentrating on it. But one of the things that I did was I went and checked out of the library. You probably can find it online now. Some of the most famous speeches. And I would read them out loud in front of the mirror as though I was giving the speech. So I had this amazing written speech to begin with, right?
Right.
So, Martin Luther King's speech, and I'm delivering it, right? But you can practice using your voice, and even, young people today, I feel like they don't talk enough, right? Just keep those vocal cords going. But I always felt really empowered reading some of the most powerful speeches that were ever written, right? So you can probably check those out and just sit in your bathroom in front of the mirror or whatever and read them out loud. And have I used to have my brother read them, so I'd hear what it sounded like when he would read it versus when I would read it. So that's a way to just practice using your voice. Just use it. Things that inspire you, read them out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the assignments I actually have in order to complete Distinguished Toastmaster. So I intentionally gave I Have a Dream speech on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I gave that speech at Toastmasters, and it was, wow. It was very emotional, very impactful back, what was it, January 20th, something like that. So that is an amazing speech. And I heard, I don't know if it's true, I think it is though, that when Martin Luther King Jr. that day was talking to the audience, the majority of the time he was reading a script. He was reading words on a piece of paper. And at the end, there was a gentleman behind him, because when you look, you can Google anything, and when you look on that speech, there's people behind him, and I guess there was a gentleman that said, tell him about I Have a Dream. Tell him about I Have a Dream. So Martin Luther King Jr. gave that speech because that's what he had in his heart, and that's what he believed and was passionate about, and that wasn't part of the manuscript. So I don't know if that's true, but it gives me goosebumps if it is, because that is an incredible speech that wasn't even written down, that was deep inside of him. So Sherry's absolutely right. And especially if you get into reading a lot of speakers and looking up their speeches online, you can get used to their style, or you can choose different styles of speakers that you like, and get better really, really fast, become a better speaker really fast, quickly. And the name of that book, where Rachel Hollis talks about, you know, growing as a young child and walking and then becoming adult, is called Girl Stop Apologizing. Girl Stop Apologizing by Rachel Hollis. If you ever get a chance to read that book, it's a great book. Any other questions? Any other things that you guys want to go over or cover? If we don't have any other questions, I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight.
All of Thrive's funding for programs comes from private donations, corporate sponsorship, and grants. Anyone that's interested in supporting our programs can find out more on our website, in addition to volunteering as an instructor for an upcoming event. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook for the latest updates on Thrive's agenda. For more information about any of the volunteer opportunities that were discussed today, go to thriveclaremont.org.